What surprised you the most when you were doing all of the research leading up to the completed documentary, The Grab? Is there any one thing that you can think back on that was a rocket going up into the night sky that just sat you down for a minute?
Yeah, maybe it was when I was in Venezuela and I had gone there because I wanted to document and what it looks like in a country that had formerly been one of the 20th wealthiest nations in the world, where people were now standing in 1 mile, 2 mile long food lines, where there were reports of prisoners cannibalizing each other because there's not food actually going into the prison system, the Department of Correction there. And people were, I mean, mass migration out of the country because people couldn't feed themselves. And so I wanted to see what it looked like, and what it looked like was people were using WhatsApp and Twitter to try to find the places that would still have food. And it was this very 21st century um, scene of people using technology just to try to find basic commodities to feed their families. And on a Sunday, I had gotten word that the Venezuelan government was tapping into their food warehouse, which was supposed to be going into this CLAP system for low income folks, to be able to get access to food. And I went to that warehouse on a Sunday when it was supposed to be closed. And, I by that point spent over a week driving around Caracas, documenting food lines, you know, people eating out of the families. I mean, like families eating out of trash cans, eating, a guy who said he worked all day. And he was literally scarfing up raw meat with another guy they had found, maybe spoiled hamburger or something. And then, they're eating it. And he's like, I work all day. I don't have time to go stand in a 2 mile line. Um, and so it wasn't like the homelessness I see in San Francisco. It was totally different. And having seen that for a week, I went out to this warehouse, and there were big buff guys, with their families wheeling out shopping carts overflowing with the essentials that I hadn't seen all week. And these guys identified as police and military. And so what the government was doing was opening up the warehouses to make sure that those that are enforcing the regime's policies were well fed. And you begin to see food used as a tool to control populations. Yeah, it's pretty eye opening, and it's an unfortunate reality that looks like it could be more prevalent around the world in coming years.
Yeah. Wow. That's a pretty horrific landscape you just painted there.
Yeah, that's not great.
No. As somebody directly involved with the making of the film, if people have the opportunity to watch it, what actions would you hope that they would take after doing so?
Yeah, I mean, if they're American, I hope that they internalize it, and that they begin to push our leaders to take action on this. I think we're all sick, whether you're a Republican or Democrat, of the current state of policy making in this country.
Do we have a
As
state of
we near
policy
another.
making? I thought it was just completely broken at this point.
um, to take these issues seriously, because we are getting to a point with the size of our world where we're dealing with existential issues, and it would be great if folks started really pushing Congress to take these issues seriously. So I just say um, engage with Congress, engage with your lawmakers, and yeah, that would be a great first step. But I also just think, like you said earlier, how many people know that um, a Chinese company controls or owns 1 in 4 American pigs? I don't think that many. And so I think, just like at a base level, like, let's get the information out there, and hopefully raise the level of discourse and policy making.
Yeah, my hope would be that it would shock people. The variety, like any project, you have what you want it to be for people, and then people receive it. And so, certain things, people in Arizona might respond more to the water issues from the Saudi farm than somebody would respond over the issues of the 1 in 4 pigs being owned. But whatever it is, I hope that it shocks people, and that they can at least maintain that sense of shock to the point of doing some further research, and then taking action. upon that.
Yeah.
Very difficult in the world that we live in when we're consistently and constantly bombarded by information.
Yeah, it's right. And not always high value information.
I would say not often high value information.
Yeah.
But I also think that if I wanted to overwhelm a populace and get them to pay less attention to what I was doing, that's the approach that I would take. Overwhelm them to a point where you couldn't really keep up with the information as it is anyway, so you're only getting snippets, and everybody could weaponize it the way that they want to. And then while they're distracted, that seam in leadership that we talked about already, you're behind the scenes doing whatever it is you're doing for either your own personal interests or your country's interest, whatever that may be. That's what I would do.
Yeah. I mean, China just completely cuts down information to whatever it is they want you to see. I had a wild conversation with a couple who had grown up in China and had come here to do their doctorates. And I had only recently, so it was probably a decade ago, I'd only recently learned about the Great Famine. And I asked them if they had heard about the Great Famine growing up. And they said, no, we didn't hear about it until we came to your country. And I said, well, how do you know that it wasn't my country making up lies about your country? How do you know that it was really your country that was suppressing the information, right? Just like on a fundamental level, how do you know now that you're actually hearing the truth and what you came from wasn't the truth? And she told a really devastating story that her grandma had told her about, essentially about cannibalism in the small village around that time period. And so she just said it rang true. I won't go into the details because they're gnarly. But yeah, it's not great either, having a dearth of information.
I'll give you the closing thoughts. Where would you like to point people? Up to you. The floor is yours.
Yeah. Well, for folks that are interested in seeing the documentary, they can go to thegrabfilm.com, and that will have information about upcoming screenings. We've kind of slowed down now our film festival tour, but we'll have, if we get this theatrical release at the beginning of next year, and then on one of the major streamers, it'll have that information, and they can sign up for a newsletter. And then I just remind people that, as one of these global trends reports that Odie and I said, like, the future does look pretty dark, but it's still solvable. This is all still just like an engineering problem at this point, and that if we come together and start working on it, even with our varied interests, we can get this done.